Hi everybody, this is Carter Conlon. Welcome again to my morning. I'm holding in my hand a replica of a ball. It's not the actual one, but it is a ball. The original, it looks like this and it has a bit of dirt on it. And I'm going to explain that to you in just a few moments. My title of my sharing this morning is simply this: Listen to Papa, he's been around a long time. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 18 says, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. I remember years ago, I was on a fishing trip with some members of my family. And at noontime, we stopped in a restaurant to eat. And one of the young guys that was with us was sitting beside me, and he was eating lasagna, and he was eating it way too fast. And the chunks, the noodles he was putting in his mouth were too long, and he wasn't chewing them properly. And I started talking to him. I said, listen, I said, you're eating too fast. I said, you're going to choke if you eat like that. And I said, there's all kinds of stories of young people that didn't listen, and they choked on what they were eating. And as I was speaking to him, he didn't seem to be paying much attention to me. And he suddenly got in distress because he was actually choking on one of the noodles in the lasagna that he had eaten. And it was really choking. It was a bad situation. Fortunately, I was able to reach into his mouth and pull out this fairly long piece of lasagna noodle out of his throat, and it was able to clear his airway. And, obviously he's very thankful for that moment because it was distressing for him. But I remember one of the men sitting across from me, he looked at the boy and he said, now, listen to Papa, he said. He's been around a long time. I still remember his words. Listen to Papa. He's been around a long time. In other words, you're just new at this game. You haven't done this before, and you've not seen the situations as he has as a police officer or just in life itself or reading a story. He's learned some things over the years. So you're wise to listen to Papa because he's been around a long time. Now, fast forward. First, I want to read a scripture in the book of Romans. And it's in Romans chapter 2 and verse 21, where Paul says, you who teach another, do you not teach yourself? Or in other words, you who teach somebody else life lessons, can you not be taught yourself? And, all of us, we like to be the teacher, and we're loath, in a sense, to listen to other people who might have another opinion on something or another way of doing something. If we feel that we've mastered it, we know how to do this thing, and we just feel very good about ourselves, which is my case. Several years ahead, not too long ahead from that moment in that restaurant. As a matter of fact, that same boy was at this ball game I'm going to talk about. The New York Mets heard about Feed New York, where we were feeding through 100 churches in New York City. We were feeding roughly about 19,000 people roughly at that time, just giving them food assistance in some of the harder hit areas of the city. There was about 100 churches involved in this. And I was considered, in a sense, one of the leaders there. So the New York Mets decided they wanted to honor us, and they wanted to honor what the churches in New York City were doing. So it was a terrific honor. And they were going to advertise Feed New York throughout the whole ball game. They were going to talk about it in the seventh inning stretch. They were going to talk about it on national television. It was a game, the New York Mets versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was a huge game. There was going to be a lot of people there. They were going to present us with a check to help with the food expenses and such like in New York City. So it was a big deal. And then they asked me if I would be kind enough to throw the first pitch for the game, to which I agreed. So I went out for weeks. I practiced. I went out with one of my sons, and I threw ball on my vacation. I threw in my backyard. And the day before going to the Met Stadium for this incredible game, the day before, we went to a local ballpark, and I threw 55 out of 60 pitches right over the plate, like right over the plate. So at the standard distance of 60, whatever it is, feet, I thought, well, I've got this. Okay, so we end up going to the stadium. Now, this is going to be on national television. It's going to be across the country. I guess the point is, if you're going to fall, sometimes you're going to fall big. You're going to go down fast. And we got to the game, and I'm in the back room, and I'm waiting to go out, and they're going to introduce me on the PA system. They're going to talk a little bit about Feed New York, and then I'm going to throw the first pitch out for the game. And so the manager of the Mets, okay, the manager of the New York Mets looked at me and he said, "Pastor, if you have never thrown from the mound, don't do it today. Don't try to throw from the mound. The trajectory is different." We don't realize, because the mound goes up gradually, that I think it's 3 foot something off the ground. And he says, it will throw you completely off. And he says, "I don't recommend you do it because you've never done it before." See, the parks I was practicing in was all flat ground. He says, "If you've never thrown from the mound, don't try it." He says, "It'll throw you right off." But he said, "You step down in front of the mound where the ground is flat and throw the ball from there." It's still a good, 50 feet or 45 feet. So it's still a decent pitch. But anyhow, I had been practicing, and I thought, I've got this. And he looked at me and he said, "But if you insist on throwing from the mound, throw over the top, about 2 to 3 feet over the top of the catcher's head." Catcher will be in a crouch, right? Throw over the top of his head. If you don't, you're going to bounce the ball on the ground before it comes to the catcher. So I went out into the field, and I thought, well, I got this. It's only people who don't know how to pitch that are going to go down in front of the mound. I've got this. Pride comes before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction. So I got to the mound, and I'm looking at the catcher, and it doesn't make any sense to me in my mind, because I've been throwing a certain way for so long. Just like the young guy in the restaurant. He's been eating his lasagna a certain way for so long. I guess what I was saying to him didn't make any sense. I kept telling him, "You're going to choke if you eat like that." The manager of the Mets is telling me, "You're going to choke if you pitch from the mound." Oh, no, but I can teach others, but can I be taught? I think there's a little bit of that in all of us. So I went to the mound, wound up with my best pitch, and I threw it with all my might. And of course, it bounced on the ground. It did reach the catcher, but it bounced about, I guess, 3 or 4 feet before it reached him. And if you've ever been to New York, the fans are brutal. There was no shortage of boos from that stadium when I hit because that's their tradition. If you throw the first pitch, if you bounce it on the ground, you get booed. And if you're going to get booed, you must get booed on national television. I mean, that was just an awful moment for me. I can be honest about it. It was an awful moment because I had practiced for so long, and I was kind of proud of my ability to throw the ball, except I'd never thrown from a mound. And your whole angle and trajectory is off when you throw from a mound if you've not done it before, as I now know. So I guess the point is, I didn't listen to the manager of the New York Mets. And I mean, the man was older than me, I think, at that point, and he's been around a long time. And the words came back to haunt me. Listen to Papa. He's been around a long time. You see, Papa knew that if you do it this way, you're going to choke. Just like I told this young man in the restaurant, the same thing happened to me. His was in a restaurant with a few witnesses. Mine was on national television before, I don't know how many people watching this game. So that's my story. So the advice that I have for you today is, oh, by the way, after I threw it, with all the boos, there was also this voice. This guy had a loud voice, and I guess he was from Brooklyn. But I remember him yelling out, "Are they going to let you keep the dirt on that bowl?" It was so embarrassing. I'm coming home and I've got the ball and it's like dirty on one side because it bounced on the ground. It's not supposed to, Pride comes before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction. So, point being, I guess, I'm 71 years old now, and I've learned, I hope I've learned, listen to Papa. He's been around a long time. This is Carter Conlon, and welcome to my morning, and I hope the thoughts of my morning will make your day. Love you so much. See you again tomorrow. God bless you.